everyone. This is the first video lesson on further graphs. So we're going to be looking at graphs this time. It's going to be very fun. And we're going to be starting with the basic graphs, including the straight line graphs, the parabolas, and the cubic graphs. Those are our basic, most essential graphs. So we'll cover all of those in today's lesson. Starting with the straight line graphs. So as the title says, it's just going to be simple straight line graphs, linear graphs that we call. So I'm going to start with a question, and y equals to x. It says sketch y equals to x on our axes. And before I start anything, I want to stress to you guys that when you're drawing graphs in your exam, you're going to draw your axes, okay, probably with a pencil, and teachers will mark you down if you don't put your y, x, and the origin. Okay, nice teachers won't worry about it, but strict teachers, they will worry about that and mark you down if you don't put the axes and the origin. Okay, so whenever you draw a graph, always start with that. Okay, all right, so y equals to x. This is our most basic graph, and if y equals to x, basically it means when x is 1, y is also 1. When x is 2, y is also 2. When x is 100, y is also 100, etc. Okay, so if x is 1, y will also be 1. Okay, draw some dotted lines like that. So it will pass through that point there. Okay, like that. And it will always pass through the origin as well. So with straight line graphs and with any type of graph, the first thing I usually do is find my x and y intercepts. So my x-intercept and my y-intercept. For those who forgot what they are, they're basically the points where they cut the x and y axes. Okay, so you should all know how to find the x and y intercepts. How do we find the x-intercept? We sub in y equals to 0 and solve for x. And to find the y-intercept, we sub in x equals to 0 and solve for y. Okay, so in this one, if I sub x equals to 0 to find the y-intercept, y would be 0, so it passes through the origin. And similarly, if I let y equals to 0 to find the x-intercept, x would be 0, wouldn't it? So therefore it will just simply pass through the origin. That's the intercept. And then when x is 1, y is 1. When x is negative 1, y is negative 1. Okay, and etc. So this is the most basic graph, but you really got to understand every single little part of it to move on. Okay, let's move on. Question 2, y equals to 2x. Now remember that in question 1 we did y equals to x. What do you think the difference is if I just stick a 2 in front of the x? Well, when x is 1, what would y be? Y would be 2 times 1, wouldn't it? So it would be 2 instead of 1, like question 1. So you plot the point. So it would pass through that point. Okay, and again, when x is 0, y is 0, and when y is 0, x is 0, right? This is just the most basic type. So it will pass through the origin. Okay, so it will pass through there. That's an intercept. So that's our graph. Okay, so it would pass through that one, and it would also pass through that one. But you don't always have to use x equals to 1 if you like 1. You can sub in 2 if you like. So you can go 2, and then sub in 2. What would y be? Y would be 4, so it would be up here somewhere. So you would plot it up here somewhere. Okay, so as long as it makes sense, doesn't really matter which point you plot in. And the reason why I'm doing this is if you just have a look without the dotted lines, this graph looks a little bit similar to question 1. Okay, I mean really. Lazy people would draw like this, would draw y equals to x like this. So y equals to x and y equals to 2x, there's not much of a difference if you just have a look. So if you put a point that passes through it, it definitely identifies if it's y equals to x or y equals to 2x. That's why it's with these graphs you should draw or plot one point. Okay, and the difference with question 1 is that this one is a lot steeper. So what I mean by steep is, say it's a car going up this hill, it's much more difficult than going up a hill that's less steep or flatter, isn't it? So steeper means it's going taller, basically, if you like to think of it. So as the coefficient of x gets bigger, the steeper the graph. That's what you got to remember. Okay, let's move on. Question 3 says y equals to negative x. Okay, now y equals to negative x is the opposite of y equals to positive x. So when x is negative 1, let's say, and again, you don't have to sub in negative 1, you can sub in 1 or 2 or whatever you like, but I just chose 1. Negative 1, sorry. So if x is negative 1, sub in negative 1 in there to find the y. Negative 1 is positive 1, isn't it? So it's going to pass through 1. So plot that point like that. So it's going to pass through this point. Okay, and again, if you sub in x is 0, y is 0, if you sub in y is 0, x is 0, so the intercept is simply the origin. So it's going to pass through to these points, and therefore the graph will look like that. Okay, so y equals to positive x is this way, and y equals to negative x is this way. So how I think of it is, if you're right-handed, it would be easier, but if you're left-handed, you can just think opposite. If you're right-handed, basically if it's y equals to positive x, it leans towards your right-hand side. Okay, and if it's negative, it leans towards your left-hand side. And that applies for a lot of graphs, especially the straight line graph, so that's what you can think of it as. Okay, find an easy way for you to remember. Okay, so that's question 3. Question 4, y equals to negative 2x. Okay, so if x is negative 1, again I'm just going to use negative 1. Sub in negative 1 in there to find the y. So minus 2 times negative 1 is positive 2, isn't it? So I'm going to plot 2. And that's going to be the point. So this point, that's what the line is going to pass through. And guys, you should all know by now that it's going to pass through the origin, right? I mean, if there's nothing following, say there was plus 1, then that will make a whole difference. But if it's just y equals to something x or y equals to just x, it's always the origin. That's the intercept, okay? So that's never going to change. So let's just join those points like that. That's your graph, okay? And remember, in question 3, we did y equals to negative x, okay? Y equals to, in question 3, what do you think the difference is? You should know what the difference is. Well, y equals to negative x looked like this one. I'll see if I can draw a nice straight line. That's y equals to negative x. So see the difference? Y equals to negative 2x, it's a lot more steeper. Okay, similar to question 2, y equals to positive 2x, that was more steeper than y equals to just 1x, right? So don't worry about the negative sign. If the integral number, if this number here gets bigger, the steeper it is. Okay, but because of the negative, it's just leaning towards the left-hand side. That's the difference. So you really got to know that. Okay, that's question 4. Let's move on. Question 5 says y equals to x plus 1. This is when we start thinking more about the intercepts. Okay, the previous 4 questions, all the time the intercepts was 0 at the origin, but for question 5, these kind of questions where a number follows or adds or subtracts, the intercepts become different. So I'm going to stress to you guys, for those who forget or don't know, to find the y-intercept, sub in x is 0, to find the x-intercept, sub in y is 0. That's all I'm going to say for these ones. And then all you need to do is join the intercepts. So x-intercept, y is 0, as I said a few times today. Sub in y equals to 0, so that y would be 0. So 0 would equal to x plus 1. Just solve for x. X would be negative 1, wouldn't it? Yeah? So plot it. As soon as you get the x-intercept, just plot it. That would be your negative 1. Now, let's find the y-intercept by subbing x equals to 0 into our equation. So that x would become 0. So y would be 0 plus 1, which is simply 1. So that's going to be our y-intercept. That's really, really simple, isn't it? And all we need to do now, guys, is join it. Just like that. Alright, so that's how easy it is. That's all you need to do. Okay, that's question 5. Question 6, y equals to 2x plus 4. Again, I'm going to do the same procedure. X-intercept, where y equals to 0. So we're going to start by finding the x-intercept. Sub in y equals to 0 here, So you have 0 equals to 2x plus 4. So x will simply be negative 2. Okay, just solve it algebraically on your own. Okay, just add some extra steps to solve it. X would be negative 2 if you solve that one. So I plot that point in. Y-intercept, x is 0, so sub in x equals to 0 into there. So y would be 2 times 0 plus 4, which will simply just make 4. So plot it. Just plot the y-intercept there, and what do we need to do now? Just join it. Just join it and you get the answer. That's your graph for question 6. So have a look. And before I move on, guys, I want to explain something that's also very important and relevant to this topic. When we do x plus 1, let's say we did that in question 5, didn't we? Okay. Now, x plus 1 is simply y equals to x. Remember this graph that we did in question 1? And we're simply just adding 1 to that. Plus 1, isn't it? So, remember how to draw this graph? Y equals to x is simply that graph. But y equals to x plus 1, this simply means lift it up by 1. Okay, so see that one? Is that the origin? I'm going to lift it up by 1, so I have something that looks like that. Okay, so this one is my y equals to x plus 1 graph. This is very important, okay, because you need to know how it shifts. So plus 1 simply means lift it up by 1. Okay, and you can find this point. This is the x-intercept, isn't it? Because it's cutting the x-axis. So you can simply find that by subbing y equals to 0. Okay, if you sub y equals to 0, you get negative 1. And make sure you label it. So that's not very important for now. All I want to stress to you guys is that if it's plus 1, you lift it up by 1. And if it's plus, say, 2, you lift it up by 2. That's the whole concept. So it's really easy, but you shouldn't miss out on that information. Okay, so have a look at question 6 and let's move on. Question 7 says y equals to negative 3x minus 3. Okay, I'm going to do another procedure like question 6. Start off by finding the x-intercept, sub in y equals to 0. Okay, so if I sub in y equals to 0, I'll get 0 equals to negative 3x minus 3. Just solve it, guys. If you move the negative 3 over here, you'll have positive 3 equals to negative 3x, and then just divide both sides by negative 3, you'd get x equals to negative 1. Okay, I'm just going to kind of skip through all the basic algebra. So plot it. Now find the y-intercept by subbing in x equals to 0 into here. So I have y equals to negative 3 times 0 minus 3. That's simply going to be negative 3. So I plot negative 3 onto the y-axis. I've done all that. All I need to do now is join it, and that's my graph. Okay, so check that out. And again, have a look, guys. It's negative. Okay, this is the whole procedure of doing it, but if you want to examine it piece by piece, it's a good idea to do that as well, because you really got to understand the whole essence of this. See how it's negative? So it's leaning towards the left. And see how the integral number here is 3? It's bigger than 1, isn't it? And it's bigger than 2, so it's quite steep. Okay, it's getting almost vertical. It's very, very steep. And because we're subtracting 3, we've actually dropped it down by 3, pushed it down by 3. Okay, so if there was no 3 there, it would probably just be at there, at the origin. Okay, but because we push it down by 3, the y-intercept becomes down, less by 3 units. Okay, so do you kind of understand the whole idea of this? Because they do ask you sometimes relevant ideas in your exam, so you really got to know everything about this one. That's question 7. Question 8 says sketch y equals to negative x plus 5. Okay, start with the x-intercept. Now, when y equals to 0, put the y equals to 0 there, so 0 equals to negative x plus 5. Move the negative x over here so you have positive x. X will just be 5, so plot that point. Now y-intercept, sub in x equals to 0, put it in there, you'll have y equals to negative 0 plus 5. It's just 0 plus 5, which is 5. So you plot that in and join it. Okay, so I think this is getting very repetitive now, so you should get the hang of this a lot more. Okay, that's question 8. Question 9 says y equals to just 4. Okay, now where is y equals to 4? If that's 1, 2, 3, 4, if that's 4, this point there is 4, isn't it? So y equals to 4 is simply over there. I don't know if I put it on the right spot. I'll just delete this now. That's y equals to 4, approximately there. And y equals to 4, there's no x's there, so we don't have to worry about x. So y equals to 4 means for whatever value of x, y will always be 4. Okay, so even if x is 100, y would always be 4. If x is 2, y would be 4. If x is negative 3, y would be 4. Because there's no x, doesn't really matter what x is. So the graph is simply like that. Okay, so whatever values of x, it will always be 4. That's why it's this horizontal straight line on 4. Okay, so you got to remember this, when y equals to some number, it's always a horizontal line. Alright? Now in 10, we've got x equals to 2. Now where is x equals to 2, guys? Approximately on the x-axis. It's here, isn't it? So, x equals to 2 means whatever y is, there's no y, so we don't really care about what y is. So whatever y is, x will always be 2 no matter what. So it's going to be like that. So whatever values of y, so if here, x is going to be 2. For that y value, x is going to be 2. For that y value, x is going to be 2. So for whatever y value, x will always be 2. That's why it's a vertical line. Okay? So when x equals to some number, it's always a vertical line. Okay? So now you know what horizontal lines are and vertical lines are. That's question 10. Question 11 says sketch y equals to 0. Okay? Very similar to question 9, where we did y equals to 4, I think. Y equals to 0, where is 0? Well, 0 is simply here, isn't it? Well, on that point, whatever x is, y will always be 0. And remember what I told you guys? Y equals to some number, it's always going to be a horizontal line. So it's simply going to be that yellow line there. Okay, that's y equals to 0. Now question 12, okay, sketch 2x plus 3y equals to 0. Now I'm starting off with making 3y the subject. Okay, so 3y equals to negative 2x. Just move the 2x over. I'm trying to make y the subject, and you'll see why I'm doing that in a minute. Now divide both sides by 3, so I have y equals to negative 2 on 3x. Okay. Now have a look, guys. This is similar to our very first few questions. Yeah? Where y equals to 4x, y equals to 2x, y equals to 1x. It's similar to that. But it's just got a negative sign, which means it's going to lean towards your left. And the reason why I did this, guys, is because you can go ahead and start with by finding your x and y intercepts. So you can sub in y equals to 0, but you'll see that x is 0. And you can sub in x equals to 0, but you see that y equals to 0, isn't it? So the intercept is basically at the origin. But I did this to examine how steep it is and what direction it goes. Okay? Now we know that's negative, leans towards the left. 2 over 3, what does this indicate? Is that greater than 1? It's less than 1, so it's probably going to be very less steep than, so it's almost going flat. So the rise over run, the point of doing this one is, this is where I introduced to you the gradient, which you're probably already aware of. The gradient, you know that gradient is rise over run, isn't it? Now 2 is the rise, negative 3 is the run. So you go ahead and plot it. 2 is the rise, so rise by 2 and run by negative 3. So run by negative 3. Okay? And then you plot the point. So it's going to be passing through this point here, and then you simply join it like that. And that's the graph. So as you can see, because see how it's not as steep as our previous few graphs, it's quite less steep. Okay, that's why it's less steep, because of this integral number. Do you understand the whole idea of this? And do you know why we use the rise over run? To know exactly how steep it is. We can't do it if you like to do it accurately, this is how you do it. Or if you don't like this method, an alternative method you can do is the method that we used in the first few questions. You can sub in x equals to 1 and then find what y is, the corresponding value of y. So sub in 1 into x. If you sub in 1 into x, y would be negative 2 on 3, isn't it? So approximately there. So you can join this point, the intercept, and this point, and you'll still get the same graph. Okay, so determine which way is comfortable for you, but you still should understand the gradient as well. That's question 12. Okay, question 13 says sketch 3x plus 6y plus 2 equals to 0. Now this one, as you can see, a number follows, so we need to worry about the x and y intercepts. So I'm going to start off by finding the x-intercept by letting y equals to 0. So put y equals to 0 into there, just like this. So 3x plus 6 times 0 plus 2 equals to 0. So find what x is, just solve it guys. You should have x equals to negative 2 on 3. Okay, so I plot that point for my x, and now find the y-intercept where x equals to 0. So sub in x equals to 0 to find your y-intercept, just like that. And then just solve for y, okay? And you can do that by yourself pretty easily. So I have minus negative 1 on 3. So I plot that point there, and then what do we do now? Simply join it. That's my last step, just like that. And that's the answer to this question. Okay, so that's question 13, all about finding x and y intercepts. Okay, question 14 says sketch x on 2 plus y on 4 equals to 3. I know there's fractions, but don't worry, just start off by finding your x and y intercepts as usual. Okay, so my x-intercept, when y equals to 0, put 0 into y, like this. So this whole fraction would become 0, right? And then multiply both sides by 2 to get x equals to 6. Okay, and then plot it. Now find the y-intercept by subbing in x equals to 0 into here, just like this. And similarly, this fraction will become 0. So y over 4 equals to 3. So just multiply both sides by 4. So y equals to 12. And just plot it in. Okay, and our final step, of course, is just join it. And that's the final graph. Okay. That's question 14, so have a look. And most of these is basically about finding x and y intercepts, just so make sure you get those right. That was some straight line graphs.